Welcome back to This Week. Time now to get the views of our media and political experts, MMA Creative Executive Vice President and Democratic operative Mike Kopp, and syndicated conservative talk show host Steve Gill. Welcome, guys. Another busy week here in Tennessee and around the world. Nationally, everybody talking about the disaster in Haiti. The U.S. and other countries responding. Charities on the way. The real tough part is a lot of these groups just can't get on the ground.
Yeah, the airport is absolutely packed in. The roadways are not travelable. They don't have gasoline to get the planes refilled to get them back out of the country so others can come in. It is a disaster on disaster on disaster, and the lack of water, medical care, everything else is making the crisis more tragic day by day.
Yeah, you know, and there's certainly a short-term need that we've got to address, the water, food things Steve's talking about. But long-term, as Steve was talking about earlier, I mean, there's so much aid that's already gone down to Haiti. Where will the money go eventually?
And nothing has changed with all of it.
Since 1994, we've been spending about $100 million a year in aid to Haiti. And what has it bought? It's not moving that country ahead. There's no education progress. There's nothing. And again, I think we need to help in the short term. They need water, food, assistance right now. But I think in the long term, we have to evaluate better as a nation. What are we doing in these countries that are third world, impoverished, in our own backyard? I mean, this place is really Somalia in the Caribbean, and we have all the dangers and risks that we're going to see it develop down the road into the kind of dangerous thing that might harm our country. You've got the same thing happening in Venezuela, in Cuba. The mindset that has led to the tragedy in Somalia in terms of the political and policy issues is not as devastating as the earthquake, but long term, it may be more damaging to the people.
And the immediate concern, still trying to pull people out of the rubble, still trying to save lives. The time factor very critical. Once that happens, and once they determine that time has passed, then it's going to take months and years to rebuild that country.
And it will take even longer if you don't have the infrastructure we're talking about.
Here in Tennessee, state lawmakers in special session this week to discuss the possibility of changing the state education system. Looks like it's going to happen, where teachers will be evaluated 35 to 50% based on teacher test scores or student test scores in order for the state to qualify for about $500 million in federal dollars. TEA not happy about it, but it looks like this is something that's going to happen.
Well, I've actually talked to some teachers about this, and I think there's a perspective that's been being ignored, and that is that a lot of teachers would welcome this because it gives them an opportunity to shine, one, and two, it also will identify those teachers that need help. It's not necessarily to look at this data as some way to punish teachers, but it may be a way to identify those teachers that need extra resources.
And it also rewards the good teachers.
Yeah, we want to be able to reward the best. I think there are teachers that can be improved, that we should be able to target and improve and identify them. And then there are some that, frankly, ought to be gone. And we need to get the bad teachers out of the process, improve the ones that have the capacity to do better, and reward the ones that are the best, the way things work in the private sector.
And in this economy, the state really had to do all it could to try to attract $500 million for the education system.
The stars lined up for this. You had the White House pushing this initiative. You had a governor who wanted to do something on education reform before he left office. I mean, it's the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, I think the key, and I think the legislature has been very focused on this on both sides of the aisle, is to make sure we don't use this $500 million for creation of new programs that will require funding down the road. This money is one-time money. It will go away in the next 3 or 4 years. We don't need to saddle ourselves with new programs that will require new revenue down the road. I think they're going to be focused on what can we buy with one-time money over the next several years that will improve the quality of education.
One key part of it, though, is innovation. If we can use some of this money to identify some possible best practices that can carry on, that's what we need to do.
A big change, too, it would look at how money is funded for higher education. We would rely more on exactly how things are going on in the universities as opposed to how many students are in the universities.
And that's long overdue. I mean, the fact of the matter is you have these universities that are growing by leaps and bounds, but do they necessarily need to be
graduate students?
Exactly.
Right.
Well, are we doing good enough for those that come in that may not be prepared for 4-year full-time college work? Our secondary system, our community college system in Tennessee is basically abysmal. We don't get enough good work out of our high schools so often. Kids are coming in having to do remedial work in college. That's very expensive. We ought to use more of our junior colleges to do the remedial work so that students can then transfer after 2 years at a community college, at a junior college, into one of those 4-year institutions. And the governor's candidates were talking a little bit about that this week in their first debate, but nobody seems to have really kind of honed in on how we create a system that raises the level of our community colleges, understands that it's got to fit in your 4-year system. In Virginia, North Carolina, and other states have figured that out.
And the key there is to make sure that if you spend time in a community college and you get a meaningful curriculum, that actually you can carry it over.
Transfer those credits.
Which means you've got to have that finger and glove relationship that our colleges and universities in Tennessee
right
now. It is
now.
a mess, right.
Also in Washington this week, the president talked to bankers strongly, telling them that he wants the money back that was used for bailouts and is going to charge them fees. The bankers are not happy, but guess what? The American people weren't happy when they went bankrupt and had to bail them out.
That's right.
Well, I think that the problem is that they want this money not to repay the Treasury, but to create a new spending, trust fund, slush fund for the White House. I'm in favor of raising the taxes and getting the money back if we pay the taxpayers back, but that's not what they have in mind.
Well, I think that the president has said the first priority is to make sure that we pay the Treasury
the loan back. Right.
And the fact of the matter is, if these institutions are now having bonuses, these people ought to be taxed. There's just no question about it.
Here in Tennessee, and Nashville particularly, it looks like the Convention Center project, $500 million project, is on track. A vote next week, one vote, and it looks like it's up or down. It looks like it's going to get the up. So the Convention Center project may get approval. Then we have another deal with regarding the hotel, $300 million. That's still all up in the air.
This is the time we need to be making, in my opinion, we need to be making an investment in something like this, because the economy is going to turn around, and we need to continue to position Nashville as a place that welcomes tourism and that welcomes these kind of conventions that bring in these sales tax dollars.
Bottom line is, if you're going to spend $600 million to $900 million if you add the hotel into it, is this the biggest bang for our bucks? Will this generate the most return for Nashville and Middle Tennessee taxpayers? I'm not convinced that it will. When we look at other convention centers around the country, they're not meeting the expectations that many of these same experts pledged and promised when they built their facilities. Even those that are proponents of it are acknowledging that we're not likely to see the growth of tourism that they're projecting. Taxpayers are going to be stuck with the bill, and I'm concerned that down the road the bond rating that just got diminished is just the first of the problems.
It's looking more and more like Harold Ford Jr. is going to run for the United States Senate from New York.
Right. New York has a history of welcoming people that are
it's Hillary Clinton's seat.
Carpetbaggers from other states. I think it's and who knows how Harold Ford's going to fly up there. His record as being kind of the conservative candidate from Tennessee is not rubbing well with a lot of Democrats in New York, and I think that's one of the big obstacles he's got to overcome.
Good news is Harold's young, and there are still 48 other states after this.
If he should run and lose, though, that's 2 losses for the United States Senate. That's not good. 30
I think
seconds.
if he doesn't run, I think he's done. He can't come back to Tennessee and have a political career, and I think this is it in New York. He's kind of got a magical shot as an outsider. This is it for him.
He'll always have a job as a political commentator.
Mike Kopp, Steve Gill, appreciate your insight. Stay with us. This week continues in a moment.